Good morning. I'm Laura Grace. I'm the Little Witch, and this is Spilling the Tea. I was thinking this morning as I was drawing my cards what I wanted to chat about on this morning's video. This is the happiest time of the morning. I'm a little bit sniffly and a little bit sneezy because I just woke up. So I've been drawing from the Witch's Anatomy Oracle and the Deviant Moon Oracle together for my daily pulls. And this is what I got. Experience from the Oracle deck. And 3 of coins from the Deviant Moon deck. So today we're going to talk about experience by way of my cat in the litter box. I think that has to go. Experience that we get with collaboration. Experience that I got with collaboration. We're going to talk about the Miss Cleo Phone Lines today. So when I first started reading tarot cards, I spent a little bit of time with them without some hard studying, and then I spent a pretty intense year studying them. During that year, I feel like I may have been doing short reads or quick reads for friends. After that year, I was doing them here and there, and then I discovered the Miss Cleo Phone Lines. I was up at night at some point in time. I saw they used to have ads on TV because this is before the internet was really a big thing, if you can imagine that. I looked them up online, and I can't remember if I found them by way of a pop-up while on a witchy website that we all used to visit because there was only one. You know what I'm talking about. I applied. I looked at all the things and I applied to work there. And so the application process at that time was they would call you from somewhere in the States because it was a US thing. They would call you and you had to basically do a reading for one of the managers there. And I imagine it's not much different than it is today with a lot of the websites that will hire you rather than you being an independent contractor. To be clear, I feel like I was still considered an independent contractor. You had to put so many hours a week in. You had to keep people on for a certain amount of time or you would get punished. We'll talk about that in a minute. Working for this phone line is where I got an awful lot of my reading, my beginning reading experience. So I would set up the table. It would always be late at night because I didn't want to bug anybody and I wanted it to be quiet so I could work so everybody would think I was professional. So I would I am so tired. Look at these eyeballs. Oh my God. So I would set out my books that I was using to practice. I would set out my notes because I had a bunch of notes on each card and each suit and a bunch of other things. And I would put the candles on and I would light the incense. And almost always, oh crap. Is there more? That's the stuff. Almost always I would have the incense, which is really hilarious because here I am sneezing my butt off. But I had to set the stage before I could get in the zone, right? So at that time, I still had a phone attached to the wall. And so I would sit at the small kitchen table and the phone was right above the kitchen table, which was very convenient. And I would put the phone against my ear. And shuffle and do the readings and then hold the phone as I'm like, and this means that, and this means that, blah, 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 blah. And I did really well on those phone lines. But the whole idea was that none of those calls and none of that experience would have happened had I tried to go it alone at that time. I was doing anywhere between, like sometimes I would do an hour-long call and that would be it. I'd be like, I am done. Sometimes I'd do a couple of 20-minute calls. Sometimes it would be a big handful of 10-minute calls. There was a lot of calls over the period of a couple of months that I did this really intensely to practice. So of course they took their cut, and I feel like it had to be about 50-50. And I think it may have been $1.99 a minute at that time. And sometimes they would give away free minutes, or whatever the special was on when they were advertising on television. Call now. That was the other thing. That was another thing that would happen, is that these advertisements on television would play at night. Like, I feel like they would start maybe 10 o'clock at night, maybe 10:30, and they would go. And so you'd want to work during those peak times when they were, call now. The best times were late at night. You'd be up late at night, so you're tired too. At that time, I had a store that I had on the go. So I had opened a secondhand store, which also ended up having witchy stuff in it, because of course it did. I also was waitressing at a bar that no longer exists. And then I would come home sometimes at 2 a.m. and log on for another hour, because money, right? So it was really, really good for experience. It was really, really good as a collaboration. They were doing the advertising. They were bringing the clients. I just had to do the easy bit. Now we're wearing all the hats, not just this one. So although in the end, for me, once I started to get a local following, and also I found at that point, now we're in about 2002-ish, 2001, 2002, I found a site where I could be independent. So I didn't have to log on for a certain amount of hours. I didn't have to keep the clients on for a certain amount of time, because that really troubled me, that part of it, but it was part of it, right? So the other thing with that Miss Cleo phone line is that, like, if you didn't keep people on for 20 minutes, you got penalized, right? And so they would move you down the queue. And so this queue, at this time, how the queue worked was whoever had the longest call times with their clients would stay at the top, and then it would trickle down, right? In terms of how long this person keeps them on, for 60 minutes, and this person keeps them on for an average of 30 minutes, and this person keeps them on for only an average of 10 minutes, and this person gets an awful lot of 2-minute calls, and they're down the bottom of the list. So they would fill the calls like this, and if somebody hung up, it would jump back up to the last person, because one bad shift and it would mess up your averages. So when I found the independent line, they're still taking a cut. It is still a collaboration. They are still doing that thing where they are doing the advertising and they are bringing all the folks. I just have to do the readings. It was totally worth it for the experience that I got. It taught me the cards very quickly. It taught me how to tell stories very quickly, like put the story together so it makes sense for the people that you're reading for. And it created this whole thing that I got going on right now. Really, it's the origin story of how I'm making it happen right now. All that to say that collaboration, Merlin, ow, he's after my toes. Stop it. Hello. I'm not playing with you. I'm trying to tell stories right now. There's a time and a place for independence, right? There's a time and a place for going it alone, and there's a time and a place for collaboration. And to trust that collaboration, especially if you're new at this, especially if you're new at reading, if you can find mentorship, if you can find connection, if you can find something that helps you get that experience, you're on the right path. And we all have our own paths with this. You're going to see other readers who are doing, and other witches who are doing magnificent, loud things with all their skills and with their general witchiness. Collaborate with them as much as you can and get the experience you can, and you'll get there in your own manner, in your own way, in ways that are unique to you. trust the process. I had to trust the process, even though at that time, oh my heck. Even though at that time it was feeling like it was taking a long time to get to where I needed, me today is so grateful that I took the time to learn, get the experience, and then found a collaboration to work with that helped boosted me into the next step and the next step and the next step. There's been not enough tea in this video. I'm Lori Grace. It's early in the morning. That was tea with the little witch early in the morning while we had a little bit of a chat about the Miss Cleo Phone Lines and what it was like to work there. And if you have any questions, drop them in the comments and I'll just type up the answers. And if it's worth it, I'll make a whole nother video on answering any of your questions. Okay, have an awesome day. I'm going to see how I can collaborate today.